So I'd like to begin by telling you how I arrived at the subject that I actually want to talk about tonight, the 2016 election, the power of misogyny, and the consequential, nauseating ascendancy of he who shall not be named. Certainly the ball, that shining great spear of rational hope, was dashed to the ground on November 8th. For me, the experience of this election was like watching the Oogie Boogie Man unravel and burst, releasing all his nasty critters. But I was worried that this topic was too vague and too general. After all, the stories told here are meant to be personal. Vexed, I spent several weeks mulling over the phrase dropping the ball and my own experiences of missed opportunities and failure. I thought I'd regale you with tales of my athleticism and all of the white, yellow, and green ribbons I brought home from various field day events in elementary school. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the field day award system, it's like winning a bronze medal and then 2 levels lower, like maybe lead and tin. So there's a family photo that perfectly illustrates my sporting prowess. Smiling, my mother and my little brother walk through the park carrying a basketball. I trail them, head down, reading a book. But that wouldn't be much of a tale because it's the same story over and over and over. Kirsten flunks at sports. So there was also the time in high school when I was working at a toy store. I found a wallet that had been left behind on a shelf, forgotten by a customer. And I brought it up to the front desk to show my fellow teenage coworker and announced it. Hey, I found a wallet. Some quick thinking kid with way more street smarts than me came up, stuck out his hand and said, "That's mine." So naive or just plain stupid, you can choose. I said, "Okay," and handed it over. The kid promptly absconded with his booty. About 5 minutes later, a frantic dad type came in asking about his wallet. Again, naively, I related the story of what had just transpired. He flew into a rage and asked why I hadn't checked the ID inside before handing all of his cash and credit cards to a stranger. Yeah, I totally dropped the ball on that one. Lesson learned. There are also instances of flubs made by health professionals, like the OBGYN who put me on a blood pressure script reportedly safe for pregnancy and refused my assertion that the dosage was too high. This resulted in a scary overdose, and what I remain convinced triggered my subsequent miscarriage. A ball not dropped, but professionally thrown with great and careless force. I woke up one night thinking about this topic and remembered my first Christmas in Alabama when I was 6 years old. Imagine my excitement bottoming out when I opened my stocking and an orange rolled out, followed by a bunch of nuts still in the shell. It took about 30 years for me to put that experience into perspective. My grandparents had been children of the Depression. For poor country families, oranges in the middle of winter would have been a special treat. Nuts are expensive, man. I should have cherished those shelled almonds. But it seems appropriate that I'm on the subject of nuts and balls right now. Because balls are really the crux of the matter. Our whole patriarchal obsession with male anatomy and whether or not somebody has big balls, brass balls, or balls of steel. To win, you've got to grab them by the balls, go balls out or balls to the wall. But women, we're ball breakers. We're the old ball and chain, and we cause blue balls. This election showcased our American values. In our dominator culture of toxic masculinity, a man, any man, even one accused of raping a 13-year-old child, was better than the most qualified and accomplished woman. Dominator culture keeps us afraid. It relies on our feelings of powerlessness and surrender. It seems too easy now to deepen the withdrawal, to nestle further into my turtle shell and wait out the storm. But that changes nothing. It is me standing on the ball field, ignoring the pitch coming my way, which, we know that I couldn't catch anyway. It is me throwing all the balls in the air and ducking as they rain down around me. Bell Hooks, a writer I deeply admire, says that building community requires vigilant awareness of the work we must continually do to undermine all of the socialization that leads us to behave in ways that perpetuate domination. Nothing seemed a more appropriate topic for tonight than the election, ball dropping on a grand national scale. For months, we've watched a narcissistic bully use public forums to verbally assault a woman vastly his superior. We continue to be subjected to textbook tactics of emotional abuse, lying, denial, blame shifting, projection, gaslighting, body shaming, and fear-mongering. Still, we endure the daily barrage of histrionic tweets typed by tiny fingers. A good friend of mine said that it's as if we've been forced to marry our rapist. Political anxiety disorder has become a recognized health crisis. After several icky dreams of being assaulted by the president-elect, I had to disconnect from social media and news outlets. The election cycle proved too triggering. I'm not alone in this. In the wake of the election, crisis and suicide hotline centers reported a 250% increase in calls. Woman, child, or man, the statistics are sobering. An American is sexually assaulted every 98 seconds, and nearly 5 million US women are physically abused by a partner each year. We suffer a cultural sickness. Dominator culture frames all relationships as power struggles. It's about violence, manipulation, and control. However, manipulation and control are required when developing skill on the playing field. Consider the violence inherent in so many of our games. The controlled ferocity required to trounce an opponent or to push oneself past exhaustion, physical pain, or limitations. Think about the intense focus required to sustain peak performance and to be in the zone. The psychological manipulation required to defeat a rival team. This controlled balance is an act of juggling. Anyone who's attempted juggling or seen a juggler perform knows that the fluid movement and order that dazzles the watcher cannot be sustained for any great length of time. Chaos pervades, disrupting the order. The juggler tosses and catches balls with flourish before stopping the show or before they begin to hit the floor, a collision of energy and matter. What goes up must come down. The pendulum always swings the other way. We anticipated this inevitable backlash, knowing that progress advances slowly, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. This year, mainstream media, social media, voters, and the Electoral College fumbled badly, and their error, our error, lose to chaos. Bell Hooks says, "What we do is more important than what we say or what we say we believe. So we must now work together to move past our sheepish clumsiness, our outrage at failure. We must abandon the power struggle for collective action. Once again, we must hone our skills in preparation for the next game. And with practice and time, I know we'll get it right."